For a lot of parents, meal times with kids can be stressful, but it doesn't have to be that way. So today we're going to talk about what you can do instead. So if you're a regular viewer of mine, then you can probably tell that I'm not in my normal filming location, and that is because I am on vacation at the beach, but I still need to get some videos filmed for you to put up. So I'm filming here, so that's why the set's a little bit different, the scenery's a little bit different, and also you might hear some noises from people moving around the house and chatting and stuff like that. So I just want to give you a heads up about that. But today we're going to be talking about meal times with kids, because it can be a really stressful situation for a lot of parents and a lot of kids, and so I wanted to give you some tips and some things that you can do to take that tension out of mealtime and make it a much more enjoyable experience. And real quick before we get into everything, if you happen to be new here, my name is Sarah and I'm a registered dietitian, and this channel is all about food and nutrition stuff. So if you're into that sort of thing, then make sure that you subscribe. But today we're going to be talking about really the core of what goes wrong for a lot of parents and kids at meal times. And if you have meal times with your kids where there's a lot of fighting around food, a lot of negotiating about eating this or that, or you feel like you have to try to get food into your kid and then they don't want it, and it's just this whole thing, meal times are super unpleasant and not something that you look forward to, then I think this is going to be really, really helpful for you. And the reason that a lot of those battles happen a lot of the times is because the parent's job and the kids' jobs get mixed up. So the kids are trying to do what the parents should be doing, the parents trying to do what the kids should be doing, and when you get that crisscross, that's when a lot of the battles can start. And so to prevent that from happening, we need to know what is the parent supposed to be doing when it comes to mealtime and what is the kid supposed to be doing when it comes to mealtime. And there's a really nice framework that breaks this down and makes it really clear, and it's called the division of responsibility. Now, this is not something that I have come up with myself. It was actually developed by another dietitian, Ellyn Satter, and she is someone who specializes in child feeding, and it's a framework that she developed based on her own personal experience as a parent, based on her clinical experience working with kids and families, and it's kind of the gold standards for meal times and teaching kids about food, and you know, it's kind of what everyone uses now. And in addition to all the clinical experience and personal experience we have to back it up, there's also now research to back up this approach. And really what this framework does is it just makes this all really easy to understand and describes it really, really clearly. Now, the division of responsibility we're going to be talking about today is for toddler through adolescence. For babies and very small children, the responsibilities break down a little bit differently because the feeding relationship is a little bit different, right? Babies are eating all the time and kind of just on demand, and they're making a lot of those decisions. And it's really once we get through that transition into being a toddler that this division really comes into play. So the division is this: the parent's job is to decide what, when, and where we are eating, and the child's job is to decide whether they eat and how much they eat. So what this looks like is the parent is deciding the what's for dinner. So they're doing the meal planning, they're preparing the meal and deciding, you know, what is going to be on the table. They're deciding the when, so we're having dinner at 6 p.m. and the where, we're eating at the dinner table. And once you get all that figured out as the parent, your job is really done. You get the food on the table, you got it at the time, you got it at the location, and then it's the kids' job to take over, and they get to decide whether they eat and how much they eat from what you have offered. And so this means that once all the eating has started, that the parent can really sit back and relax. And at that point, all they need to do is enjoy their food, create a pleasant meal experience, and really demonstrate for their child how we behave at meal times and how meal times work. But it's not their job to prompt the child to eat certain foods or eat certain amounts of foods or to keep track of what their kid is eating. And that's why meals can become a battleground, because if the parent is trying to come in and take over the child's job, which is to decide what they're going to eat and how much they're going to eat from what's been prepared, then you start to get that back and forth, that struggle. And a lot of times it's not even centered around food. It just becomes kind of this power play. And this is something for parents and kids that happens a lot, right? There's this constant struggle of the child wanting more responsibilities and the parent trying to give them age-appropriate responsibilities as they develop, and there's always this kind of tension there with lots of different things. But you don't want that to happen when it comes to food, because once you start to get that struggle, then it can really cause a lot of problems, a lot of issues. And instead of food just being an enjoyable thing, a family time, a thing that we do together as a family, a really pleasant experience, it becomes this opportunity for the child to try to struggle for more power, or the parent to try to control the child, and it gets in the way of the whole eating experience. Now, this might sound a little scary to you, and you might have some questions about it, because you might be thinking, well, if I'm not telling my kid what to eat or how much to eat, or really prompting them, how do I know that they're going to get enough food or that they're going to get the right types of foods at their meals? Now, these are very common concerns to have for parents who are not familiar with this division of responsibility and maybe who haven't experienced it personally. But it's important to remember a couple things. First off, remember that a child really knows best how much food they need to eat. It's very difficult for an adult to estimate how much food any other person needs, but especially a child. A lot of times adults can overestimate how much food a child needs. Children are much smaller, so even though it might look like a little bit of food to an adult, it's really the right amount of food that they need. And it's just hard for us to know what they need because we're not in their bodies. Also, a lot of times parents forget about different growth spurts that their children are going through, and so they can start to panic. If their child is going through a stage of growth where they're not growing very fast, they may see their intake start to decrease a little bit, or they might not seem as interested in food, and parents can get worried like, oh no, they were eating this, now they're only eating this much, but it's because that child is at a slower period of growth. On the flip side, when children are going through growth spurts, sometimes parents get concerned that they're eating too much, and then they start to try to restrict their kids' food, when really the child is just responding to their body's own hunger and fullness signals, and they need more food at that time because they are growing much faster. And we also want to help kids stay in tune to those hunger and fullness cues, because if the parent or other adult comes in and starts controlling how much food the child eats, then they can start to lose their attunement to their body's own signals because they're constantly being overridden by someone else coming in and saying, no, you need to stop eating now, or you need to eat more now. I also know a lot of parents worry about certain food groups, like, oh, my child is never going to eat this food if I don't make them eat it, but it's important to get rid of those preconceived notions that you have about what food your child will like, because children are curious about food, they're curious about the world, they want to explore things, and a lot of times your preconceived notions can actually become kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy if you approach a certain food like your child won't like it. So either you don't offer it to them, or when you do offer it to them, it becomes like this, well, you need to eat this because you're not going to like it, but you have to eat it anyways. Or if you make a big deal about them eating it when you wouldn't make a big deal about them eating another food, when you come in with those ideas in your own mind, it kind of comes through in how you behave, and then your child kind of picks up those signals like, oh, am I not supposed to like this food? Is this food a gross food? What's going on here? So clearing that away and just treating food like food can also really help here. Now, this is obviously a huge topic because there's so many different situations and circumstances and questions and concerns that you might have. This is just kind of the basic framework of this whole thing. So if you have other questions about this, definitely leave those in the comments, because those could become topics for new videos, for additional videos. I mean, this is something that we could talk about and talk about and talk about and talk about. So definitely leave any questions or concerns or anything like that in the comments, and then we can dig into those a little deeper together. And with that said, I hope you like this video. If you happen to be new here and you want more healthy eating tips and nutrition info and videos like this one, then make sure that you subscribe, because eating healthy and living a healthy lifestyle really doesn't have to be complicated, and I want to show you how to do it. And if you want to watch some more videos, I have a couple linked over here that you might like. Thanks for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.